to have a hung election and a civil war. Straight up, that's what he said. One side will disagree with the outcome regardless, and people will take to the streets and start fighting each other. And Bill isn't just making this stuff up either. Polls show that most American voters believe there is a high chance of a civil war. This is true regardless of political affiliation. More than a third of American voters also believe that it's time for the country to be split up into blue states and red states. That is some extreme polarization, and all the inflation that Americans are experiencing is probably making things worse. When people don't have enough money to pay for rent or food, riots tend to be the outcome. I reckon the midterms could provide the perfect spark for these riots. As with Europe, a domestic crisis of confidence in the United States means it will be much less likely to intervene if China invades Taiwan. Some would say that war tends to be a great unifier, but I would say that in today's information age, people know which wars are worth fighting. It turns out most aren't. Now, if I'm wrong, and the United States does somehow rally its citizens around going to war with China, then it could be presented with a second issue, and that's the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, or SPR. If you watched our recent video about the SPR, you'll know it's at its lowest level since 1984. That's because the current administration has been dumping the SPR into the domestic economy to keep inflation and petrol prices in the United States low. The SPR has been draining fast, and OPEC's recent decision to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day will only cause it to drain even faster. Given that the SPR is intended for emergencies, such as a war, the United States might not have the energy resources it needs to defend Taiwan if China invades. You can have the most powerful military in the world, but if you have no fuel for all your jets and ships, then you don't really have a military at all. Now, to be honest, I actually don't know how important the SPR is for the US military's operations. Based on my research, the US military only uses around 250,000 barrels of oil per day. This means that the United States should theoretically have the capacity to supply its military even without the SPR. One thing is for sure though, and that's that the SPR being at a multi-year low is literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's unlikely that the United States will be in such a vulnerable position energy-wise ever again. You can bet this is something the CCP is hyper-aware of. Oh, and did you know that before and during the Ukrainian invasion, the Chinese have been filling up their strategic reserves with a lot of Russian oil?